Hello and welcome to this interview session with domain experts. For last 2 months, we have been conducting this interview series with respective domain experts. In the last 2 months, you've met with Shri Anil Swarup and then Shri Vibhu Goel sir, one by one. This month, we have chosen Miss Mukherjee, Miss Indira Mukherjee, IPS, for this interview series. Ms. Mukherjee is an IPS officer of 2013 batch. She has worked in various capacities at various places of West Bengal, including being the Superintendent of Police of Purba Medinipur district and Superintendent of Police of Jhargram district. She did her schooling in Bhutan and Kolkata. She is a computer engineer and worked with TCS Kolkata before joining the Indian Police Service. She has done her master's in political science and has also got a master's degree in police management. Currently, she is pursuing a postgraduate diploma in counseling from Calcutta University. Ms. Mukherjee, ma'am, welcome to this session.
Thank you so much for having
me. Ma'am, why this jump in career? You were working in the IT sector. From IT sector, all of a sudden you went to, or you came to civil services. Why this jump? What prompted this jump?
The 2008 recession prompted this jump. So basically, I was working in TCS, but I saw that many of my batchmates and my friends, colleagues, they were shown the pink slip. So I got scared. I needed job security. So I thought that let me go for a government job. So I just tried my hand at UPSC. That's
it. UPSC and obviously, it's one of the highest echelons. No doubt, this is one of the coveted services in the country. You cracked and you cracked at the highest level, ma'am. Ma'am, one question which might seem to be a bit silly to you, but quite often than not, while interacting with the students, we face these kind of questions from them. I'm raising one such question here. That normally we see the glamorous part of the civil services. You have been an SP of two districts. You have been SP of Purba Medinipur, then subsequent you were also SP of Jhargram. How challenging is the job? Because when we see the glamorous part, we see the beacon on the car, we see the securities, we see the orderlies and all these things. How challenging the job is?
The job is very challenging, and I think that is where the beauty of the job lies, isn't it? Had it not been challenging, we would actually not have been competing for this particular service. Now, what we see in movies, let me tell you, my friends, that is not the reality. We do not really do anything that you see Ajay Devgan or Akshay Kumar or maybe Priyanka Chopra, whatever they do on screen is possibly, it's very different. It's basically a portrayal. It is the creative experience of the director. But to be an IPS officer, it is very satisfying because you are involved in the decision-making process. And in your district, whatever happens with regard to crime, law and order, the welfare of your police personnel, the running of the administration, the vehicles, the cars, routine traffic, community policing, each and every aspect, you are the one where the buck stops. So yes, it is very challenging, and as a job, it cannot be far more satisfying. Yes.
As an SP, how much discretionary authority does an SP have? Because quite often than not, when we talk about the IAS or IPS officers, their primary job is to provide services to the common people. Now, in India, even today, the basic literacy level is very low. Quite often than not, we see common people who don't understand the technicalities of the things, but have genuine issues. They come in front of the administration, they come to the administration asking for help. How much is it possible for an SP, for an IPS officer, to go beyond the boundaries and to help such people using their discretion or that way?
See, the district will basically function the way the SP wants it to function, because SP is not a single person. SP is basically the face of the district police. It is basically a team effort. So the SP, the additional SPs, the DSPs, the inspectors, sub-inspectors, constables, whomever you can think of, this is an entire team. So whatever decision the SP will take, it gets percolated down, and the implementation is it will take place at various levels. So if you say as to whether the common people who find it very difficult to understand the processes which basically happens in a thana or in an office, let me tell this to you that those days are basically gone, where people came to the police station and they faced difficulty in terms of understanding the processes. We do have help desks in all the police stations and in all the offices of West Bengal Police, because I belong to this particular cadre. And there are various other avenues through which the public in general, they can reach out to us. Even in the case where someone very illiterate or someone without the knowledge of basic policing processes as to get a GT done or to file a case, or maybe with regard to collection of a basic post-mortem report, etc., we do provide all sort of services. But then, yes, we also come across cases where there can be aberrations. Maybe some staff did not behave in a proper way, or maybe in an impolite manner, or basically maybe the officer was not very courteous. We do come across cases like that, but we also make it a point to learn from these experiences. We do a feedback sharing, and we ensure that we train our police personnel accordingly in soft skills so that common people do not face any difficulty.
Ma'am, you being a representative of the woman in India, and also at the same point of time being a part of the police services, how much do you think, or how much do you feel that police in general is sensitized about the issues faced by women in their day-to-day life, or the issues of women as such in general? Do you think there is a lack or there's a gap about this gender sensitization in police forces?
Right. India as a society has evolved, and it is still evolving. Any change that we may expect, it does not happen overnight. It takes days, months, and probably years. In terms of gender sensitization, yes, what you're saying is absolutely true. We still have a long way to go. But having said that, let me also bring it to your fact that the mentality of police personnel or mentality of the citizens in general is gradually changing. Our systems, our infrastructure, and all the facilities that are usually provided in the police department, they are also undergoing a sea change. For example, 10 years back, there was possibly very few lady police personnel or lady constables that we had in West Bengal Police. But now if we compare with say 2011, the numbers have really gone up. And accordingly, we do have provisions for separate lady barracks. We do have provision for separate lady changing rooms. We do have separate washrooms for women in police stations and in other offices. And yet there is obviously element of work atmosphere and professionalism. I won't say that it will improve in the near future.
Ma'am, still, sexual harassment at workplace, it is very general in India. So, we have seen previously, we have seen the Visha guidelines being brought out by the Supreme Court. Subsequently, the 2013 Prevention of Sexual Harassment in Workplace Act being brought in by the government. These two are very stringent acts. Do you think they have they have their impact properly in the police forces? Because I'm asking you especially from the point of West Bengal, because number of such allegations have been filed in various other states by the lady constables, by other women officers of the cadre. So how is the scenario in West Bengal? Do you think in respect to the sexual harassment at workplace, things have improved in West Bengal?
Right. I think let us not discuss with regard to the position of West Bengal with other states, because let us think in perspective of India as a country, because the problems that the women face in, say, Gujarat or maybe in Tamil Nadu or possibly in J&K are probably similar to a certain extent the problems that the women face in West Bengal. And let me say that the police personnel, they do not come from Mars or Venus. They are very much a part of our society, right? So
Right.
their problems will be very much relatable across the country. Now, having said that, let me also say this, that sexual harassment at workplace, it is a very common feature that we come across. And we have, as per the guidelines from the court, we do have places or basically mechanisms in place by which any lady police personnel or even non-police personnel who's working in the PS premises, any complaint that comes to our knowledge, it is basically dealt with as per rules of law. And we take these matters very seriously. And I won't say, I don't have the numbers with me currently as to how many complaints were actually raised in West Bengal, say in last 3 years. But I'm sure each and every task is, whenever it is brought to the notice of the SP or at any level, sufficient and necessary action is being taken.
Ma'am, I'm moving away from policing. Rather, I'm focusing a little bit more on the preparation part. You appeared in prelims in 2012, and subsequently you cracked the examination and joined the services in 2013. There was a massive change which was introduced in 2013, especially in terms of mains. So I'm not going to ask you about the GS of mains, because that in this new trend or new pattern of GS, you didn't appear. But I would more like to talk about current affairs. That the significance of current affairs, or as UPSC professionally calls it, events of national and international importance, that remains just the same. How did you prepare for this aspect, this dynamic part of the syllabus? How much focus did you put into it?
In terms of general studies, I think my preparation was divided into 3 parts. Number one being obviously the newspaper. It is very standard and very common practice amongst aspirants to refer to the Hindu. But apart from this, for economics, because I was not very good at economic related terminologies, so I used to refer to the Financial Times also. Apart from this, I think the second thing would be to refer to some good current affairs magazines, Pratiyogita Darpan, Kurukshetra, Chronicle, whichever you find easy, or maybe even Yojana to a certain extent. So I think these magazines, they do actually come in handy. And because a part of general studies also takes care of subjects like international relations, so I used to follow Frontline as well, and other magazines like Geopolitics, etc., etc. Apart from this, the third thing which I did was possibly refer to the internet. So there were some very some particular sites which I used to follow on a regular basis. They helped me in my preparation towards general studies as well as towards my optional papers also. So I think a combination of these 3 things is enough to begin with for the general studies paper.
Your optional was political science. One of your options was political science. You also did your master's in political science. Such a subject with a really vast syllabus. How did you manage along with your job? Because I presume when you were preparing, you were also in job at that point of time. So along with job, you prepared with political science as an optional. How comfortable were you with such a subject?
Political science and history. These were my 2 optional papers. So both were actually huge. But I actually decided on history first, because history is something that every aspirant will have to study eventually, at least for India, I guess. Medieval and ancient, it was out of sheer interest and love for the subject. So I decided on history first. But as and when I started reading about history, and maybe world history also, I gradually realized that it is probably very helpful to have a background of political science also, because of two reasons. Number one, there are several concepts and several people, philosophers who will keep on coming in your history syllabus all the time. So their contribution towards political science as a subject and being philosophers, so that is also very important. So that was first reason. Second reason being, in the general studies paper, you will anyways have to study international relations, you will anyways have to study constitution, you will anyways have to study a part of the different isms, socialism, fascism, radical, any of the isms that you think, they will basically be interspersed between history and pol science. So three portions of your pol science syllabus is basically already there in general studies. The extra thing that you need to do is basically the theory part, which I think one can easily do with some amount of tenacity. So that is the reason why I took pol science. It was to save time, nothing else.
Since you talked about the theory part, I'm inclined to ask you a question here. You're coming from a technical background, going for social sciences, the subject of social sciences. How easily could you grasp these theoretical aspects, especially with the thinkers of political science, the various forms of realism and those aspects? How easily could you manage those things? Did they pose any problem for you?
They did. In fact, studying political theory part was just like watching Inception. So the first time you see the movie Inception, you probably could not understand. At least I did not understand. But the second and third time, possibly, I think I could understand what the movie was actually about. So political theory, to me, a person who is basically an engineer, it was like that. But I think studying or reading good books, getting the right amount of guidance, and with lots and lots of practice, I think one can easily sail through political theory.
Okay. I would also like to talk about the writing part. Normally, people from science background, especially the people from technical background, then the people of commerce, they find it very difficult to cope up with writing, analytical writing. Here, you had two subjects of social sciences, history and political science. How did you manage with this writing part?
The first thing that I did, if my memory serves me right, is to appear in regular tests. So basically, each and every Sunday before I took my classes and my tuitions, we used to have a test. This test was not to test how much you could reproduce, but it was basically a test of how much you can write in a given amount of time. So basically, time management. So irrespective of what you're writing, which obviously will come with your knowledge and your flair and your command over literature, but the first and the foremost important thing is your writing speed. So you will have to come up with an assessment that for 5 marks, how much, according to your handwriting and the page setup, how much will you write? And for 10 marks, how much will you write? And how much will you write for 2 markers? So that gradually comes with practice. So yes, one aspirant should write and give tests regularly. This is to improve your writing speed. That is one. Second is, one also has to understand that the writing style in optional papers, especially in subjects like history or pol science, is very different from writing your answers in general studies. So I think this will only come with proper guidance. One actually has to go through what the seniors or your mentor suggest as to what should be the writing style in 2 different kinds of paper. And third and most essential is you also have to read quality books and read the editorials of newspapers and magazines very keenly, because it is the place which gives you, number one, good words for vocabulary. Secondly, good quotations, because there are many a times in your answer where you will have to quote something or quote someone. So these are very important things which possibly make your answer different from 10 other answer scripts. So there is no shortcut rule to improving your writing skills. It is only pure hard work, patience, and practice.
Okay. Away from mains, now let's look into the personality test. Normally, we confuse the personality test as interview. Now, this is not interview. This is actually personality test.
Exactly.
So, so how did you prepare for personality test? The personality test that you faced. What special or what separate you did for that?
Well, I think three very important things that I can remember. Number one, I used to stand in front of the mirror and just explain or say something about myself as to who I was, what is my optional paper. So I had my own set of questionnaire, about 100 or so, which I imagined that if I was an interviewer, what questions would I ask Indira Mukherjee, the person? So I had those questionnaire. I used to stand in front of the mirror and I used to say whatever answer that I had. And I used to see that how exactly I look from the different angles and how confident my facial expressions are. Because I was told that there will be 6 or 7 people in the panel and someone will be watching you, someone will be grilling you, someone will be only asking questions, someone will probably possibly not notice you at all. But it is basically to understand how confident you look from different angles. So I practiced in front of the mirror, that is one, with my own questionnaire. Secondly, I decided that I will sit for some mock interviews. So I went to few places where I gave 3 or 4 mock interviews before my actual interview. So that possibly helped because they also gave me a lot of inputs in terms of non-verbal communication. Obviously, what you speak is fine, but what you don't speak, your gestures, etc., they matter a lot. So this is also very important. And third thing possibly is to work on your posture. When you go to the interview, you should be properly and neatly dressed. The way you sit, the way you enter the room, the way you move, the way you look, you smile, everything basically needs some kind of grooming. You just cannot barge into a particular room, the way you greet, whom you greet first, whom you greet second. Do you look at all the 7 people when you enter the room? Do you say good morning, sir, 7 times? So these are the things that I had actually worked actually. Rest is pure luck because let me also tell you, even after practicing so many things, my interview was not that great, or it was not as great as I had expected it to be. Because I think out of 20-25 questions, I could not answer 99% of the questions I could not answer. So at the end of the day, you just have to be confident with whatever you say. Yeah. So I basically, possibly, I gave them 20 ways of saying, I don't know. So, sir, I don't know. Sir, I can't recollect. Sir, I think my memory is not serving me right. Sir, I think I'm suffering from short-term memory loss. So those were the different answers that I gave to the panel because I could not answer a single question, apart from my name possibly. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, this is no doubt startling, ma'am. Anyway, but in spite of that, no doubt you fared well in interview. Must have had.
Eventually, I saw that I got very high marks.
So,
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
right. So any general advice to the aspirants who are preparing right now from the overall experience that you gained? Any general advice that you'd like to give them?
I think I would like to say 3 things. Number one, friends, whoever is preparing for this examination currently, please hold on. I know it is very, very frustrating to see your exam dates getting postponed. Obviously, to some, it may help because they think that they can study more, prepare more. But at the end of the day, there is something called timelines because you have a pre-hand mental preparation that your prelims happens in this month and then your mains happen this month. So you basically attune your entire life cycle and entire set of priorities in life according to those dates in those months. So I do understand. So amidst COVID, exams have been getting postponed. The situation is possibly very, very gloomy for those who have appeared in class 12, who are in their final years of the college or final years of masters. But still, you just have to hold on, and let me tell you that this too shall pass. So keep on, just be very steady with your preparation. Don't feel lethargic, or don't think that I have 2-3 months to myself, so I should roam around. So don't do that. So just hold on to this entire examination process. This is the new normal, and I'm sure from new normal we will go back to the previous normal, which is the normal. That is one. Secondly, I would advise that whoever is appearing in this examination, please note that it is not much about your knowledge. It is more about your perseverance. So obviously, you will come across many students who are far more qualified than you, who are far more deserving than you, and you can see that possibly they can answer, basically go tangential to your entire head. But having said that, please remember that you have to have confidence in yourself. Please remember, this examination is not about how much you know. It is about how much you can write, how much you can express at the right place, at the right time, and in the right way. So you have to remember this, that you are no less competent than possibly the person who sits on the first bench and gives answer to all the questions with the teachers asked. So you're no less compared to him or her. That is second. And third, I would say that it might sound very crude, but the truth is that this is the most difficult examination in the country out there. But many of us in the process, we lose our sleep over it, we fret over it. And there are many people who, even they have a lot of perseverance, but ultimately there are people who eventually do not end up clearing the examination because of XYZ reasons. We will not get into that. But the point is, many of us will possibly see that there are aspirants who are possibly more deserving than yourselves, who could not get through the examination. Personally know that some of my tuition friends were far more deserving than me because they had given more efforts, they were more industrious, they were more brilliant, and they would have made gem of an officers, but then still they could not clear it. So that could have happened to me also. So ultimately, it is stroke of luck, and you have to remember this, that not clearing this examination is not the end of life. You are made for something very specific. It is predestined, it is preordained. One has to understand this. You cannot take it too hard on yourself. Don't think that the life will basically, crumble and fall on you in case you do not clear this examination. You go for it, you try, you give it your best shot. If it doesn't happen, please go for something which is actually predestined for you. When you have this particular attitude, with a light of, I think, with a stroke of positivity, I think it will make your life easy and your preparation easier. Yes.
Well, thank you, ma'am. Thank you for your time. We have consumed a lot of time of yours, and obviously to the viewers, as ma'am said, stay healthy, be healthy. You need to maintain. You need to be very careful during these times. At the same point of time, I would also like to mention that there has been some internet issues because of which at times the audio has been cracking. We are extremely sorry for this, but as you can understand, during these times, conducting physical interviews that's not possible. That's an option that's out of option. So we had to go for this online interview only. But given the internet connection, there has been some problem. Hope still you have been able to make out of this interview something, right? Ma'am, once again, thank you. Really, thank you for the time that you gave us.
My pleasure. Thank you so much.
Thank you.